What comes to mind when you hear the word feminism? Marches, hashtags, angry debates. The truth is, feminism in the United States has never been one thing. It's a movement that's taken on many forms, faced fierce opposition, and redefined itself through generations. From women fighting for the right to vote in corsets, to digital activists taking on global injustice with a tweet. This is the story of how feminism changed America and continues to shape our lives every single day. Feminism, at its core, is the belief that women deserve equal rights politically, socially, economically. But in practice, the movement has always been more complex. In the United States, feminism hasn't been a straight line. It's evolved in waves, each one rising from the struggles of the last. First came the fight for the vote, then equality in the workplace and control over the body. Next came deeper questions about identity, race, and inclusion. And today, the movement has gone digital, spanning hashtags, courtrooms, and global platforms. This journey isn't just about women, it's about the very fabric of American democracy. To understand where feminism is today, we have to go back to the very beginning. First wave feminism 1848-19. It started in a small town in upstate New York. In 1848, a group of women and a few men gathered in Seneca Falls. What they created there was radical. The Declaration of Sentiments, a direct challenge to the male-dominated society of the time. Led by Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Lucretia Mott, they demanded that women be treated as full citizens with the right to vote, own property, receive an education, and participate in the political process. It was the birth of the first wave of feminism. In the decades that followed, figures like Susan B. Anthony and Sojourner Truth became national voices. Truth, a formerly enslaved woman, famously asked, "Ain't I a woman?" A powerful reminder that race and gender were always intertwined. Women organized, protested, published newspapers, and even attempted to vote knowing they'd be arrested. Their fight wasn't easy. They were ridiculed in the press, dismissed by politicians, and even betrayed by their abolitionist allies after the Civil War, when black men gained the right to vote before women, but the movement endured. By 1917, women were picketing the White House. Hunger strikes followed, jail time, public outrage. And finally, in 1920, after more than 70 years of activism, the 19th Amendment was ratified. Women had won the right to vote. It was a monumental victory, but not a complete one. Many Black, Native American, Asian, and Latino women were still excluded from voting through racist laws and practices. Still, the first wave laid the foundation. It proved that women could organize, resist, and win, but equality was far from achieved. The next wave was already on the horizon, waiting for a spark. Second wave feminism 1960s-1980s. The 1960s brought revolution, civil rights, anti-war protests, and a new wave of feminism. While the first wave fought for legal recognition, the second wave demanded social, cultural, and economic equality. The spark, a book, The Feminine Mystique by Betty Friedan, published in 1963, captured the deep dissatisfaction of suburban housewives who were told they should be fulfilled by domestic life but weren't. Friedan called it the problem that has no name, and millions of women saw themselves in it. This time, women weren't asking just for the vote, they were asking for opportunity. They wanted access to higher education, equal pay, the right to work without discrimination, and control over their own bodies. In 1966, Friedan co-founded the National Organization for Women Now, which pushed for policy changes like the Equal Rights Amendment, Title IX, and laws against gender discrimination in the workplace. And then came a seismic legal victory, Roe v. Wade in 1973. The Supreme Court ruling gave women the constitutional right to an abortion, a landmark decision that remains controversial to this day. But the second wave wasn't without its blind spots. Many Black, Latina, Indigenous, and queer women felt left out. The movement was largely led by middle-class white women whose experiences didn't represent all women. Angela Davis, Audre Lorde, and Gloria Anzaldúa began to speak up, challenging feminism to confront racism, classism, and heterosexism within its own ranks. Despite its flaws, the second wave changed American society. Women entered the workforce in record numbers. They enrolled in universities. They broke into law, politics, medicine, and the arts, but they also carried the burden of being told they could have it all without the systems to support them. By the 1980s, the movement faced backlash. Feminists were mocked as angry, unfeminine, and man-hating, but their work had cracked open the conversation. Now, a new generation was ready to take the conversation further and in a whole new direction. Third wave feminism, 1990s-2000s. If the second wave focused on equality, the third wave was all about identity. Emerging in the 1990s, this era of feminism asked deeper questions. Who is feminism really for? What does it mean to be a woman? And how do race, sexuality, and class shape our experience of gender? The term intersectionality, coined by legal scholar Kimberly Crenshaw, became a guiding principle. It recognized that systems of oppression like racism and sexism intersect, creating unique experiences for women of color, queer women, disabled women, and others often ignored in mainstream feminism. Third-wave feminists challenged stereotypes not just in law, but in pop culture. They rejected the idea that feminism had to look a certain way or come from academia. Instead, they embraced GRRL power, zines, hip-hop feminism, and DIY activism. Movements like Riot Grrrl exploded onto the music scene, blending punk, politics, and raw personal expression. Female artists, writers, and performers reclaimed slurs, sexual identity, and body image on their own terms. Sexual liberation was no longer just about access, it was about reclaiming power. While the second wave had tried to fight porn, the third wave had feminists making it on their own terms. The movement embraced complexity. You could wear lipstick, be a stay-at-home mom, or strip for a living and still be a feminist. At the same time, critics argued that third-wave feminism lacked clear goals or policy focus. It was decentralized, messy, and hard to define, but that was the point. The third wave said, feminism doesn't have one voice. It has many, and in a world about to be transformed by the internet, that message would prove prophetic. Fourth wave feminism, 2010s present. The fourth wave of feminism was born online and it moved fast. By the 2010s, feminism had entered the digital age. No longer confined to books, protests, or political organizations, feminist activism now lived on hashtags, live streams, and viral videos. It was intersectional, tech-savvy, and unapologetically loud. Movements like #YesAllWomen, #HeForShe, #TimesUp, and especially #Hashmata gave survivors of sexual harassment and assault a platform to be heard often for the first time. Founded by Tarana Burke in 2006 and popularized in 2017, #Me to became a global reckoning. It exposed systemic abuse in industries from Hollywood to Capitol Hill and forced powerful figures to resign or face justice. Feminism had entered the mainstream, but it wasn't the same feminism as before. The fourth wave embraced a wide range of issues: reproductive justice, not just choice, gender identity and expression, including trans and non-binary voices, mental health, fat phobia, and ableism, pay equity, healthcare, and domestic violence, and a global perspective amplifying feminist struggles in Iran, India, Latin America, and beyond. Social media was both a tool and a battleground. While it allowed grassroots voices to rise, it also became a space for trolling, doxing, and misogynistic backlash. Fourth wave feminism is often criticized as being too online, but it has also resulted in real-world impact, legislation, and cultural shifts. From the Women's March in 2017, one of the largest single-day protests in U.S. history, to calls for more inclusive workplaces, education, and politics, the fourth wave is still unfolding. It's more decentralized than ever, more inclusive, more global, but also more polarized. And that brings us to the difficult question, where does feminism go from here? Critiques and challenges. As feminism has grown louder, more visible, and more diverse, it has also faced new criticisms. From the right, it's accused of going too far, destroying traditional values, or turning men into villains. From within, it's challenged for not being inclusive enough or for becoming too fractured to function. Terms like white feminism and TERF, trans-exclusionary radical feminist, have sparked intense debates. So have controversies over corporate feminism, girl boss culture, and so-called choice feminism, the idea that any decision a woman makes is inherently feminist. Some say the movement has been co-opted, repackaged into a brand, stripped of its radical edge. Think pink merch, empowerment slogans, and companies using feminism to sell products while ignoring their own internal inequalities. Others argue that feminism still hasn't gone far enough, especially for marginalized women, queer folks, and the working class. There's also a generational divide. Where older feminists may focus on policy reform, younger activists often prioritize language, representation, and social media. But disagreement is not failure, it's evolution. Feminism has never been a single idea or a perfect movement. It's a mirror of the society it fights to change. And today, as the U.S. faces ongoing debates over abortion rights, trans rights, workplace equality, and political representation, feminism is still on the front lines. Not as a finished project, but as a force in motion. Feminism in the United States is not a straight line. It's a series of rising waves, each one building on the last, each one met with resistance, and each one leaving an undeniable mark on American life. From the vote to the workplace to the courtroom, the classroom, and the culture, feminism has pushed this country to become more just, more equal, and more self-aware. It hasn't been perfect, it hasn't been unified, but it has been relentless. The history of feminism is the story of people demanding to be seen, heard, and valued. And that story is still being written by you, by your community, and by the next wave rising. So now we ask, what will your role be in that story? If you found this history powerful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell so you never miss stories that matter, and tell us in the comments which wave of feminism speaks to you the most and why.